everyone and welcome! During one of our streams, we went through some of the older login screens that used to be in League. As we found more and more of the better ones, nostalgia kicked in pretty heavily. At first, I decided to make a list of the top 10 login screens. I thought it would be a nice trip back in time. But as I began putting the list together, I realized it would be just a pointless video. So, in the end, I decided to turn it into something better. So today I want to show you 10 login screens that are unique in some shape or form. It doesn't matter how good they are. What matters is that they are different in one way or another. So, let's get started. Let's go back to a really old login screen that everyone can remember even now. It is hard to believe that the login screen of Draven was released 6 years ago, during the summer of 2012. The reason why this one was so special was because this was the first time that Riot didn't use orchestral music. Every login screen before that was somehow similar to all the others, because they were mostly composed using the same instruments. This is the reason why Draven's login screen became so memorable. The main instrument is a distorted electric guitar, and the epic chants of Draven's name really played into the fantasy of Draven being a gladiator. After Draven, Riot really focused on creating unique login screens. Only 1 month after his release, Riot published Diana. Her login was very special, because outside of the epic chants, this was the first time we have ever heard a real voice while we were typing in our passwords. On top of that, this song was about her story. But don't take everything you hear for granted. Keep in mind that her old lore was heavily modified to fit today's universe. But still, I remember the chills it gave me when I realized it is the moon that is darkening the sun above her. Months later, we got another one. It seems like the release of Elise was heavily inspired by Diana, but in Elise's case, they turned it up a bit. Graphically, it wasn't very unique, but there was an Easter egg. The first time you listened to it, it sounded like a normal League of Legends login screen. But if you sat there and waited patiently, the second time it looped, Elise would tell you the tale of the Shadow Isles. So once again, even though this is the old version of her story, here it is.
The Shadow Isles. They say they don't exist. Mythical islands haunted by ghosts and specters. Tales to frighten children. But I know better. I have been there. When I first set foot there, I immediately knew something was wrong with that place. My skin crawled, and in the pit of my stomach, I felt a terrible revulsion.
Couple of months later, Riot went for another big unique step. This time it was the release of Vi. The login screen of Vi went down as probably the most memorable login screen of all times. It was definitely this one and then the follow-up with Jinx. The reason why it became so popular is because Vi now had her own song, her own theme that people would normally listen to. On top of that, people really liked the voice of Nikki Taylor, who at the time was a stranger to the League of Legends community. Of course, now we know her as an awesome streamer who's not afraid of butt jokes. But that's not how she started. In fact, let me show you her own take on how she got to work together with Riot, before I let you listen to the final piece.
I meet a lot of people through music, and so Christian Link, the composer at Riot, is someone I met by chance through music. We wrote a song together for my band, Running the Risk, and a couple months later, we talked a lot in between, of course, but a couple months later, he called me for this. I guess he thought I was a good fit. I'm glad he thought so. Thank you.
Almost a year passed and Riot released more standard login screens like Lissandra or Aatrox, before they got to Lucian. Released almost a year after Vi, Lucian's login screen was yet another experiment that turned into a badass introduction of his character. Unlike all the other logins where all the animations were achieved by stretching and moving already pre-drawn assets, Lucian's had its own intro. This was the first time Riot had to actually manually animate a login screen. And the outcome was awesome. But there is one more lesser known thing about this theme. If you play this song at 50% increased speed, you can turn it into a pretty good techno song. I'm gonna play it for you at normal speed, but you can increase it to 1.5 by clicking the settings button on this video.
She was everything to me, but they took her. And with her, they took my kindness and my mercy. That was their mistake. Because now, all I've got left is a cold heart. They thrive on doubt. They feast on fear. These wretched abominations blight this world, and every last one of them will perish by my hand.
Next up we have login screen for Pool Party 2013. And while to us this login screen might look normal, our past 2013 selves didn't know one thing. We didn't know who this is. Most people thought this is just a female with just a summer-based tattoo, like the ocean waves a surfer would have. So Miss Fortune was the best candidate. You see, now it is obvious that this is the arm of Jinx. But this login screen was revealed in August, while Jinx was released in October, 2 months later. So this login screen actually served as a teaser for Jinx. But most people never noticed it, because as time went on, people didn't check the older places for possible connections. Time went by and Riot enjoyed working on some unique pieces. We had the login screen of Super Galaxy Rumble, whose theme is known around one certain creator. We had the login screen for Worlds 2014 that used a single by Imagine Dragons. But the next special login screen in terms of uniqueness arrived during late October 2014. It was the one that came with the rework of Sion. What this one did was very minor. It may sound and look dumb, but this login screen achieved exactly what the designers wanted. If you look up Sion's login screen, you may notice that the footage always looks a little bit different. That's because while you were typing in your account information, you could have moved your cursor around, and that would have altered the view. Using your mouse, you could have actually looked around through the helm. It was a nice little touch that gave you the feeling of being stomped by Sion. The next login screen we have here is the only one never to be publicly released. Well, it was later, but at the time it wasn't. The only place where it appeared for about a week was PBE. And then, after it was taken down, Riot decided to re-release it on their official YouTube channel about 3 years later. You can tell that the login screen is not finished, as the music is lacking a drop compared to the trailer music. And you can tell that the stadium was most likely supposed to light up on beat, as it is really dark otherwise. First I'll play a short clip from his teaser so you get the hold of the better version of his music. After that I will play his unfinished, never officially released login screen, so you understand how far off it was from being polished. This next login screen I want to show you is actually only one of 4 versions. Of course, I'm talking about the Bilgewater login screens. You see, these are very unique and special to me for one reason. The Burning Tides was the event that seriously kicked the lore of League of Legends miles ahead. It was the first story to show that Riot can put together amazing narrative. For those of you who don't know, the Burning Tides was a massive story with 4 chapters. Every chapter continued a big storyline from the view of a different character. And as the story continued over the few following weeks, the login screens reflected the story that was currently going on. So now I want to show you the 4 pieces in their intended order. Just notice how all of them are different iterations of one theme. This really gave Bilgewater a special image. As a side note, these are probably still my favorite login screens to date. And now, the last one we have here. Hopefully not too much of a disappointment, as we're going to have a look at the first of the first. Not the first login screen ever, that would be this one, and not even the first animated login screen, that would be this one. But I wanted to show you the first ever champion to get his own dedicated login screen. And because this was a little bit of a disappointment, I want to show you a bonus login screen. Those of you who have watched our channel for a while may remember our intro fairly well by now. Well, as a little Easter egg, I want to show you where the theme even comes from. And that were 10 unique login screens that used to greet players in League of Legends. Hopefully this wasn't too much of a pointless video, and hopefully I showed you something cool today. But that's it for this video. So if you enjoyed it, feel free to rate it and subscribe for more lore and news. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Discord if you'd like to chat. I am so happy we broke some viewer records last time we streamed, so if you'd like to be a part of this, follow us on Twitch too. Links to our merch and P.O. Box will be in the description. Of course, massive shout out to our patrons for going the extra mile and chipping in what they can instead of buying a footlong. You guys are the best. And with that, thank you all so much for being here and for your support, you know I really appreciate it. And as always, thank you come again.